From a studio high above the clouds of the Okanagan Valley, this is the Cannabis Podcast. Exploring the world of Canadian cannabis culture, one toke at a time. Now, here's your host and bud tender, Gary Johnston.
Well, that's a pretty perfect opportunity for me to welcome you back to the Cannabis Podcast. Thanks for coming back. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is your very first visit. If it is, well, here's an especially warm welcome for you. And we're going to spend the next 30 or 40 minutes talking about a plant I'm absolutely passionate about, and that is cannabis. Now, you may have some interest in that plant as well, and that could be why you're here. Now, before we get too much further, let me remind you, this podcast is intended for those of legal consumption age in your jurisdiction, and is intended purely for entertainment and perhaps educational purposes. You should always consume your cannabis responsibly. In this episode, we're going to touch on a couple of things. Well, we know that Mr. Trudeau is leaving. He's resigning his post. But we have to admit, he is responsible for the fact that we have legalized cannabis in Canada. So we have an article on that. Also, one that I'm not terribly happy about having to report, and that is that there are concerns with cannabis use and cardiovascular issues. So we have a story on that. Germany is accepting some weed from Tilray. That's pretty cool. And down in the States, there had been talk about rescheduling cannabis, getting it out of Schedule 1. Well, that's now been blocked. So we have a quick story on that too. On Cultivar Corner, brought to you by Up in Smoke, we're going to Earthwolf Farms, and we are sampling the Grapefruit Mac Live Rosin. Delicious. On Direct Delivery Channel, got it direct delivered to me, and you get to experience it right along with me. All of that and more on episode 193 of the Cannabis Podcast. And one of the first things I want to do, of course, is thank you. Thank you for being here. I truly appreciate it. But I also want to make sure that I thank my supporters, my patrons at Patreon. So thanks to Tony, Rob, Gage, Lloyd, Roger, and Justin. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. And now, let's get on to our first story. And we picked this story up from Stratcan.com. This was written by David Brown. Tilray Medical, a division of Tilray Brands, announced on January 6th that its German subsidiary, Tilray Deutschland, has secured a tender to supply Luxembourg with its cannabis flower. We're honored to have been selected again to supply medical cannabis to Luxembourg, said Denise Faltashek, CSO at Tilray and head of international at Tilray Brands. This is a testament to the unwavering dedication of our team in providing patients around the world with high-quality medical cannabis products. Luxembourg's Ministry of Health and Social Security has authorized qualified health professionals to prescribe medical cannabis as a treatment option since February 2019. In a post on its website, the agency says that as of January 1, 2025, THC-rich flowering tops will no longer be available, but patients will still have access to CBD-rich cannabis flower and balanced THC and CBD flower along with cannabis oils. Access to these products has been increasing since the program was introduced. There were 18 bottles of cannabis oil prescribed in 2022, 2,043 bottles in 2023, and 2,850 since January 2024. In October 2024, the city released tenders for cannabis oil and medicinal cannabis in the form of dried flowering tops. In November of 2024, Tilray Medical launched its first commercial-grown medical cannabis flowers from its Afria RX facility in Germany. Tilray received the first cannabis cultivation license issued under Germany's new Cannabis Act in July of 2024. The license allows Afria RX to cultivate and manufacture cannabis for medical purposes in Germany. The cannabis company, which operates in Canada, the United States, Europe, Australia, and Latin America, was the first to receive a cannabis production license in the country. Canadian cannabis company Aurora and the German company Demican are also now licensed for production in the country.
From the cannabis-infused studio in the clouds, this is the Cannabis Podcast.
One of the other topics that I wanted to discuss today was pricing. And make sure that as we are dealing with the legalized Canadian cannabis market, how much we're actually paying in terms of taxes. Insane. Absolutely insane. Now, I thank Matt from Up in Smoke for putting out some Instagram videos bringing this up for discussion, and that's where I've grabbed some of the content of what I'm talking about. So this is one example, a breakdown of BC's most popular products. Now, this was the Bake Sale 28-gram ounce. So customer for it pays $81.76, sales tax $8.76, so your subtotal is $73. Well, the retailer pays $49, the BCLD markup is $6.39, excise tax is $28, and the producer receives $14.61. So what's the total? The government is taking 53%. The retailer makes 29%, and the producer makes 18%. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. More than 50% of taxes. So now let's look at the other one. And this gets even worse because this is an idea that he put up about a vape, the Tiger Blood vape. Now, of course, vapes, by their very nature, have an extra 20% tacked onto that in terms of the sales tax. So look at this one. This is the Tiger Blood vape. Customers paying $48.62. Vape tax $7.37, sales tax $4.42, so your subtotal of $36.63. The retailer is paying $22.65. The BCLDB markup is $2.90. The excise tax $9, and the producer is receiving $10.35. So the total, the government is taking 49%. The retailer makes 30%, and the producer makes 21%. Now, as Matt said in his post on Instagram, if this isn't making you mad, something's wrong. Because everybody who has experienced any of these, call your MP. Let them know how insane these percentages are. 49% and 53% all in excise tax and government taxing? You should be ticked off, and we should be doing something about it. So you should contact your MP, let them know how ridiculous these prices and taxes are, and changes have to be made. It's hard not to get worked up. And for the next story, we are heading to 420intel.com, and unfortunately, a story I'm not really happy about reading. Yes, physicians warn cannabis is bad for the heart. Cannabis use is on the rise throughout the United States, but it is not as harmless as some people may believe. In fact, according to a new in-depth analysis of Nature Reviews Cardiology, regular cannabis use increases a person's risk of multiple adverse cardiovascular outcomes, including myocardial infarction, arrhythmias, and cardiomyopathy. The study's authors, a group of researchers with the Stanford Cardiovascular Institute, explored a wide variety of topics, including ongoing policy trends related to cannabis and the science behind why it appears to make such a significant impact on the cardiovascular system. The group also emphasized that it will be important to learn more about the long-term impact of cannabis use as time goes on. Cannabis is emerging as a risk factor for adverse cardiovascular health, wrote first author Mark Chandy, MD and PhD, who is now an assistant professor at Western University, Ontario, Canada, and colleagues. With changing public perceptions and an overall decline in tobacco use, cannabis is poised to replace tobacco as a legal drug of choice. Previous restrictions are ending, with the widespread decriminalization and legalization of cannabis boosting the use of the drug. A public perception that cannabis is harmless and therapeutically beneficial persists, despite mounting evidence from preclinical and clinical studies showing that cannabis use can harm the cardiovascular system and pose other serious health problems not unlike tobacco. Chandy et al. Noted that robust evidence from basic science and clinical studies has already linked cannabis use to an increased likelihood of developing cardiovascular disease. These risks appear to become more severe depending on how often the drug is used. Another key takeaway from the group's assessment was the evidence that cannabis use can increase the risk of new-onset arrhythmias, such as atrial fibrillation, AFib, and atrial flutter. Cannabis use disorder, defined as an inability to stop using marijuana despite adverse health effects or social problems, is associated with increased occurrence of AFib, hospital admissions for uncontrolled AFib, thromboembolic events, the authors wrote. Moreover, cannabis use disorder and associated arrhythmias are more common in younger patients. After cannabis exposure, heart rate transiently increases due to increased sympathetic tone and decreased parasympathetic tone. Moreover, the burden of cannabis-related arrhythmic events is exacerbated in individuals with ischemic heart disease compared with those without. The regular use of cannabis also appears to increase a person's risk of developing cardiomyopathy, and some studies have linked to an increased heart failure risk. The authors also warn that there are now synthetic marijuana strands that exert strong depressant effects when combined with alcohol and are far more potent than traditional cannabis. Clinical reports and case studies provide insight into the acute adverse effects and potential complications associated with the recreational use of synthetic cannabinoids, including respiratory depression, cardiovascular events, neuropsychiatric symptoms, and death, the authors wrote. The use of synthetic cannabinoids has also been linked to myocardial infarction, myocardial ischemia, and other cardiovascular complications, particularly in pediatric patients. The review also examined the fact that more and more people are now using cannabis and tobacco together, creating the potential for even worse patient outcomes. At this point, little is known about the long-term effects of combining these two substances, but the short-term evidence we have so far all points to harmful health outcomes. If nothing else, we need to pay attention to the fact that it is occurring, and this could be emblematic of things that we need to deal with.
THC, CBD, terpene profiles, what's in me? Oh, please explain to me. Cultivar Corner, Cultivar Corner, oh yeah. Cultivar Corner, please explain this stuff to me.
Welcome to Cultivar Corner, brought to you by Up and Smoke at 258 West Broadway in Vancouver, and online at itsupandsmoke.com. If you, of course, are 19 years of age or older and live in BC, you can check them out today for direct delivery exclusives like we're sampling today from Earthwolf Farms. This is Grapefruit Mac Live Rosin. And just like you can have it sent to you, I had it sent to me. And I'm amazed. So this was packaged up yesterday in the store. I picked it up this morning from my post office man who dropped it off. And I am really impressed at how well and exceptionally well this is packaged in a nice cold container. So there's a Uline cold pack inside the bag, and it has kept it incredibly cold. There's still a nice block of ice in there. I'm loving it. Excellent. And this is the Grapefruit Mac Live Rosin from Earthwolf Farms. And let's tell you what my THC on this guy is, and it is sitting at THC of 72.2% is my live rosin THC, and I am sitting with terps of sitting on my total terpenes 8.2. Beta-caryophyllene my first, D-limonene my second, and E-B-farnesene is my third. Also, I've got a total CBG of 4.2. and total THCV of 0.35. I haven't opened it yet. Again, I'm impressed by how it was packaged and sent to me and got here in a day. And still cold, really cold. So now I'm going to pop the top. And let's get our first. Oh my goodness sakes. Isn't that amazingly aromatic? So that's the Grapefruit Mac. Oh yeah, some sour notes on that. Oh, just delightful, just delightful. It looks like I got a full load. I'm running with a gram here, and as I open that little jar, delightful aromas. And what's the content we've got? Oh, look at that, nice, crystal clear. I'm looking at a coloring that is heavy on the blonde side, and a jar full of lovely rosin that I just want to stick my nose in. Oh, that is really, really pretty. That is just such a delightful color. It just makes you want to scoop some of that up and put it in your proxy, doesn't it? That's what I should do. And before I dive into it, let me give you a description of Earthwolf Farms. Let's tell you about them. Sustainable farming practices. At Earthwolf Farms, we implement sustainable farming practices that will allow us to cultivate cannabis and food crops with little carbon footprint outdoors, continuously improving the health of our farm ecosystem. Earthwolf Farms has been organic certified for over 7 years by Pacific Agricultural Society in British Columbia, and continues to grow a variety of vegetables, roots, and garlic in addition to cannabis sativa. We compost on-site and grow a variety of cover crops with reduced tillage and resources from our farm. Soil health is the main priority of regenerative organic agriculture. Soil health not only affects plant health, but ultimately human well-being and the overall health of the planet. Healthy soil has increased organic matter and is teeming with bacteria, fungi, algae, nematodes, and other tiny creatures that all play a vital role in micro and macro nutrient delivery to the plants. Together, these organisms play significant roles in plant health. Bacteria and fungi present in the soil assist the plants in fighting diseases and pests. In addition to this, the fungi help the plants absorb water and nutrients. Biodiversity. At Earthwolf Farms, we use alternative strategies to reduce and control pests without the need of spraying toxic pesticides. Our integrated pest management program implements a combination of preventative, cultural, biological, physical, and some chemical methods to reduce pest populations to acceptable levels. Our processing practices. Bubble hash production. We use Whistler Technologies' ice water extraction system to produce our bubble hash in a sanitary and scalable manner. We only use ice and water to extract the trichomes off the cannabis plant to bring you the whole plant cannabis experience. And rosin is the pure essence of the cannabis trichome, a resinous sap produced by squishing cannabis trichomes or flowers under heat and pressure. Rosin was initially created by squishing cannabis flowers between two heated surfaces, such as a hair straightener. Today, technologically advanced rosin presses allow large-scale production of rosin. Using the temperature-controlled plates and pressure, cannabis is loaded into filter screen bags of different micron sizes, with the heat and pressure causing the trichome heads to burst and the cannabinoids and terpenes to liquefy and outflow from the bag onto parchment paper for collection. That's enough description. Now let's get down to the real stuff that we're talking about, and that is the Grapefruit Mac Live Rosin. I'm running this at 505 on my Puffco Proxy. That's the temperature I'm running. And let me get enough of that in there for a good taste to start us off. And we turn it on. I hit the switch, and I'm heading up to 505 degrees for the start of our experience with Grapefruit Mac Live Rosin. And let me go to the description of this. So this is a direct delivery exclusive, cold delivered from the farm by the people who grew, washed, pressed, cured, and packaged it. An initial blast of gas gives way to citrus aftertaste. This cold cured live rosin was created from certified organic cannabis flowers, made from 73 to 159 microns and 72% THC with 8% total terpenes. And here's my first taste. Oh, wow. There's that burst of flavor from the rosin. Swallow that, get a little bit of the taste. There's definitely some gassiness that comes up. And yeah, I can pick up a little of that citrus aftertaste as well. Oh, I love the taste of it. Love the experience so far. Nice and smooth as it moves on in. And now I'm back up to temperature, so let's go for the second round. Oh, the tastes are just singing off of that. Let me get back up to temperature. Oh, and here again is one of the reasons why we look at live rosin instead of those lower THCs. So I take that initial hit, and then I swallow that to get some of those flavors, a bit of that grapefruit and a bit of that citrus. Definitely some gassy notes. There's a lot of gas that's flowing through my room today. Oh, that is really nice. I'm impressed by a couple of things. How it got to me in exceptionally good shape, in a nice cold bag. So I pulled that out of that, and that is still nice and cold. So my rosin is preserved. I think I can get one more round out of this. Packaged on January 11th, so this is really fresh. Another reason why we go through the direct delivery program and get access to it, get your hands on it. And remember, of course, Cultivar Corner is brought to you by Up and Smoke at 258 West Broadway in Vancouver and online at itsupandsmoke.com. If you are 19 years of age or older and you live in BC, you can have some of this sent to you just like I did. And what a treat. Opening up that package, opening up that initial jar, getting the burst of the 8.3% terpenes that fill my room with some delightful scents today. And I continue to hold it in my endocannabinoid system. And there's some happy eyes. There's some other excitement. Oh yeah. I am liking the feel of this one. So, Matt and Sarah at Up and Smoke are lovely people, and they really like their dabs, and they've been encouraging me to try more of the dabs, and so we did. That's why I ordered this up yesterday, and had it sent to me. Arrived on my door at about 9:15 this morning, all ready to go, all ready for me to do a Cultivar Corner with it in advance of the episode coming up this week. And there is my satisfaction. Oh my. I'm a bit dumbfounded right now. I'm trying to find the words to express what I'm feeling, but that's the part that just blows me away every time I get some rosin or any concentrate, and I put it into my proxy, and let me do it well. So now I'm going to do one more pump. I'm going to put that up, take my temperature up one more bit, and we'll burn out the rest of that. Oh, I love Cultivar Corner. It is one of my favorite pieces of the week, and I enjoy doing it. And here we go. This is the last of my Grapefruit Mac out of my first little dab that I put into my proxy. See, I can't even speak anymore. And this will burn up the rest of it. So we'll use all of it up rather than not having any left over. Oh, it's just right at the front of my head right now. I got this euphoria that's just smacking me in the forehead. And yeah, it's kind of just staying up there. I'm really enjoying this. This is taking me for a ride. Perhaps I shouldn't have done this at 9 o'clock in the morning. Maybe I should have left it later in the day, but that's my problem, not yours. So, we changed things up a bit this week. Still from the direct delivery line, this is Grapefruit Mac from Earthwolf Farms, packaged on January 11th. Got it in my hands this morning. We've done the sampling, and now I just get to spend the day enjoying this euphoria and this high that I've experienced. And I got pretty buzzed, pretty fast. I am loving the Grapefruit Mac live rosin. Okay, Matt and Sarah, you've taught me. You've taught me well. It is definitely worth the extra bang to get into the rosins. I am loving this day. As I often do, I come back after it's rolled around in my endocannabinoid system for a while. I am feeling really lovely right now. This is just bursting forth in my head, mostly in my head. I'm feeling lots of euphoria. I'm feeling lots of that highness in my head where I just want to do some stuff and enjoy the experience. And this was all accomplished with approximately a rice-sized piece of rosin stuck into my Puffco proxy. There is benefit to using rosin. You can make your own discovery.
Sharing stories about good weed while trying good weed. This is the Cannabis Podcast.
From 420intel.com, just a short little story which I think has relevance because this will have an impact on us as well. On Monday, House Republicans voted down an amendment to a bill that would have reclassified cannabis in Indiana. Fort Wayne State Representative Kyle Miller presented the bill calling for cannabis to no longer be a Schedule I drug. This was an opportunity to start the conversation about the possibility of legalizing marijuana in our state, and House Republicans have signaled they aren't interested in bringing hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue to Indiana, Miller said following the vote. If they don't want to have this discussion, I think they owe it to Hoosiers to explain why they don't want to grow our economy, like 24 states have done using marijuana. They also owe an explanation to chronically ill Hoosiers who could benefit from an additional marijuana program, which 38 states in the country have. Why are they so inclined to limit their access to drugs that could alleviate some of their suffering? Throughout the country, legislative bodies are having conversations about the economic and health benefits legalizing marijuana. I'm disappointed that Indiana Republicans are so willing to be left behind as other states reap the benefits while we won't even kick off the conversation by striking it as a Schedule I drug, said Miller. So interesting, there had been lots of talk about starting that talk about declassifying it, changing it from a Schedule I to a Schedule III drug. And now, because of the House GOPs, they will not be having that discussion.
Exploring the world of Canadian cannabis culture, one toke at a time. This is the Cannabis Podcast.
And for the next story, we're heading to mjbizdaily.com. And in fact, this is a contributed story, and this was written by Deepak Anand, who we have quoted in many stories over the course of the last 6 years. As Canada's cannabis industry stands at a pivotal crossroads, the impending departure of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau marks the end of an era that reshaped Canada's relationship with the plant. Trudeau's bold decision to legalize recreational cannabis in 2018 not only transformed the nation's social and economic landscape, but also established it as a global pioneer in marijuana reform. Canada remains the only G7 nation to have federally legalized the plant both for medical and adult use purposes. The impact of cannabis legalization on Trudeau's legacy is undeniable. Recent polls indicate that 62% of Canadians support cannabis legalization, a testament to the policy's enduring popularity and success. In fact, when asked about Trudeau's top accomplishments, the largest proportion of Canadians point to the legalization of recreational cannabis, according to a survey by Leisure, a North American market research company based in Montreal. However, as we look toward the future, storm clouds are gathering on the horizon. The prospect of a Conservative Party government led by Pierre Poilievre raises concerns for the industry's trajectory. One of the most pressing issues is the potential downsizing of Health Canada's Controlled Substances and Cannabis branch. This critical department, currently employing more than 200 staff members, plays a vital role in regulating and overseeing our industry. A Conservative government focused on reducing federal spending could target this department for cuts, potentially creating bottlenecks in licensing processes, amendments, and export license approvals. The CBD file, long emphasized as a priority in Health Canada's forward-looking regulatory agenda, risks further stagnation under a potential Conservative government. Such delays could result in missed opportunities to expand sales channels into pharmacies, health food stores, and other traditional retail outlets beyond cannabis stores. Additionally, it could prevent Canadian cannabis businesses from fully leveraging the rapidly growing global CBD market. The industry has been eagerly anticipating regulatory reforms to address challenges such as marketing restrictions and limitations on THC content in edibles. These much-needed changes could now be put on hold indefinitely, leaving licensed Canadian cannabis businesses struggling to compete with both the illicit market and international competitors. At a minimum, the Liberal Party government should prioritize the advancing proposals already in progress before the next election, or risk being blamed by a potential Conservative government for creating a financially unstable and unviable industry. Over the past 6 years, a multi-billion-dollar cannabis industry has taken shape in Canada, creating thousands of jobs and generating substantial tax revenue. Any rollback or stagnation of cannabis policies could threaten these economic gains, compromise patient access, and stall Canada's position as a global leader in the sector. It can also risk positioning the country as a cautionary example of the challenges surrounding cannabis legalization. As we navigate this uncertain terrain, it's crucial that the industry unite and organize effectively. It must engage proactively with policymakers across the political spectrum, educate the public about the benefits of a well-regulated cannabis market, and continue to demonstrate the positive impacts of legalization. To maintain its position at the forefront of this rapidly evolving global industry, the Canadian cannabis industry must advocate for continued support and refinement of the regulatory framework. Cannabis legalization should be viewed as an ongoing process that requires continuous improvement, not as an event having come and gone. As we bid farewell to the Trudeau era, let's remember that the Canadian cannabis industry has become an integral part of the nation's economy and social fabric. It's incumbent upon industry participants to ensure that any current or future government recognizes this reality and works to build upon the foundation laid thus far. Only through collective effort can Canada hope to preserve and expand upon Canada's first-mover advantage in the global cannabis industry. And that article written again by Deepak Arnand, who is the principal of British Columbia-based ASTA Consultancy Services, and we have quoted him in many articles over the last few years, and that's a nod to the look of what we have ahead of us. What are your thoughts? With the Trudeau legacy ending and moving aside, I guess it'll all determine on what happens in the next election. And the next story we're picking up from leafly.ca, and it is the origins of weed in a shortened form. There's a big long story which I will link to on the podcast page so you can check it out for yourself, but I really just want to cover off the basics of the main things that happened in the origins of weed. More than 10,000 years ago, cannabis is thought to have originated in Central Asia. In 2000 BCE, Emperor Shen Nung, the father of Chinese medicine, recognized the benefits of cannabis for over 100 ailments. In 1500 BCE, a wooden brazier was used to inhale cannabis smoke in China, likely as part of a burial ceremony. In 800 BC, the Artha Vrida, a collection of holy writings in Sanskrit, mentions cannabis' medicinal and spiritual uses. In 600 BCE, the ancient Scythians of Central Asia used the first hot box or vapor bath and gold bongs. 500 BC, the Siberian ice maiden is thought to have treated her breast cancer with cannabis. Less than 100 CE. In the Greco-Roman world, many texts are published on the medical use of cannabis. In 1000 CE, the Anglo-Saxon Herbarium is one of the first texts to document cannabis usage in Europe. In 1025 CE, Persian scholar Avicenna acknowledges cannabis use as a useful medicine. In 1500s, cannabis comes to the Americas via Spanish conquistadors and enslaved Africans. In 1611, King James I of England decrees that colonists of Jamestown, Virginia, grow hemp. In 1798, hashish comes to France after Napoleon's campaign in Egypt and spreads throughout Europe. In the 1830s, Irish doctor William O'Shaughnessy and French psychiatrist Jacques-Joseph Moreau published on the medical uses of cannabis, influencing Western medicine. And in 1834, Britain abolishes slavery in its colonies, and Indian indentured servants are thought to bring ganja to the Caribbean. And we'll follow that up with another known, 1964, the year that THC was discovered by Professor Raphael Mechoulam in Israel. And you can pick up the rest of the whole story of where cannabis started and where it came today on the link back at the podcast. I have so much fun putting this show together. I'm so glad that you're here to share it with me. Thank you for being here. I truly appreciate it. And that means that we've come to the conclusion of another one. And I realized last time when I pulled out some of my game of the world's worst dad jokes, I forgot to put them at the front. So I'm going to do that this time. We will put them at the front where they have already been used. And here we go. This is the world's worst dad jokes. If I can throw some cannabis in there, I will. But if not, it's just going to be a dad joke. What stays in the corner, yet can travel all over the world? A stamp. Yeah, okay, that's a bit of a dad joke. What do you call a cow with no legs? Ground beef. Now, I like that one. Okay, we're putting him in the back. That's what we're doing. And when does a joke become a dad joke? When it becomes apparent. Yeah, they are dad jokes. What key do you use to open a banana? A monkey. And I'll leave it there so I don't have to harm your ears anymore. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. Again, if you feel so inspired and you like what you hear, you're welcome to go to buymeacoffee.com/cannabispodcast and you can buy me a doobie. And that's it from the guy in the clouds for episode 193 of the Cannabis Podcast.
From the cannabis-infused studio, high above the Okanagan Valley, this was the Cannabis Podcast.